Hello girls, gays, and non-binary babes. Welcome back to my channel. Today I'm bringing you my February wrap-up, even though I literally just did my January wrap-up, but that's okay. That one was late. This one is perfectly on time. That's just the way things go. So yeah, I'm really excited to talk about the books I read this month. I read 11 books, and I think I had a really good reading month. I almost said week. Reading month. But yeah, I'm really excited for all these. Hope you enjoy the video. Hope you're excited. And without any further ado, let's get into it. So the first book that I read this month was My Brilliant Friend by Elena Ferrante, I believe the author's name is. This one's been on my radar for a little while. I watched a video talking about it somewhere, and I was interested in it. I'm really interested in contemporary fiction books that talk about friendships through the years, whether that's childhood friendships or adult friendships, and primarily between women. It's just something I'm really interested in at the moment, and I've been gravitating towards, so I really wanted to pick this one up. I did give this one 3.5 stars. I did like it. It was a bit hard to follow at times, but it didn't quite give me what I was looking for. So I think it's a really great book. This is part of a series, and it follows through this entire series these two girls who are best friends and how they become friends and growing up and through their lives. This one was really good and really well written and well done, but it just didn't quite give me what I was looking for, and there was a lot outside of the female friendship thing that, I don't know, I just wasn't that interested in. So yeah, 3.5 stars for this one. I did like it. I would recommend it, but it just wasn't really for me. And 3.5 stars isn't a bad rating, but normally, like, if I like a book, it's 4 stars and above. So anything less than 4 stars is like, kind of towing the line. So yeah. Next up, I read my next Alice Hoffman book, and that is Blackbird House. This is the sequel-ish to... My heat just kicked on. I feel like we go through this every single video. This is the sequel to The Probable Future. It's like how the Practical Magic books are sequels to the original, where they can stand alone and you can read them on their own, but they do add to the story overall. And this one I liked so much more than The Probable Future. I loved this book. So Blackbird House is a book that follows a bunch of different timelines, and they all surround this house and who's lived in it and their ancestors and their legacy, the generations that live in this house. And I think this was so beautiful. I am definitely the kind of person who personifies things like houses and how they have their own stories and character, and I really loved how this book did that. I think it really focuses on the stories of the people, but it always ties back to this house, and I just really loved it. I gave this 5 stars, and I just absolutely adored it, to say the least. Next up, we have the next book in a series that I read, and that is Imaginary Numbers by Shauna Maguire. This is number 8. I don't even know at this point. This is quite far into the Encrypted series. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, number 9. This is number 9 in the series. I'm working my way through all of them. I think there's 13 out now, so slowly but surely getting there. This one I really liked. I did give it 4.5 stars, so it wasn't quite my favorite of the series. I'm just not a big math person, and that kind of diluted it a little bit for me. I don't know. But this follows Sarah, who is a, what's the word? Cuckoo. And it kind of delves into the lore of cuckoos and their world and why they're so evil, but Sarah's not. And I love the story. I thought it was great, but just math is not my thing. So there was a lot of math in this, because cuckoos are notoriously like really good at math. So yeah, that was just my only thing, but I really liked the story. I liked where it went, and I'm really excited for the next one. If you didn't know, Encrypted series is about a family of cryptozoologists who used to be cryptid hunters, but now they're like on the other side and they protect them, and it's really cool, fun. It's like a little snack series. It's fun. It's not like fine high literature or anything, but it's fun and I love them, so yeah. The next book I want to talk about is Big Swiss by Jen Bagan, I believe is the author's name. If I get a book from the library, I literally do not remember the author's name unless it's like a big name. But anyway, this is a book I've had my eye on for a little while, and it was also recommended to me under my Think Weird Fiction book video. And so I finally picked it up. My library had a copy, and this was strange. I did give this one 3.5 stars as well. I liked it, but I think the overall message got a little lost in translation, and it just ended up turning into like this weird story. So basically this is about a woman who is a transcriber for a psychologist. But she's a transcriber, she transcribes his appointments, whatever, and she becomes obsessed with this woman that she names Big Swiss because she's Swiss and she's tall. So she calls her Big Swiss, and eventually they live in this small town, and eventually she recognizes her voice and befriends her without Big Swiss knowing that she knows all of her personal life. And it's like a whole thing. Very weird and strange. If you like weird books, yeah, this is it. But yeah, I think the message just got a little bit lost in translation. So 3.5 stars. It was weird and freaky and I loved it, but sometimes it's just a little too weird for me. I don't know. Sometimes it's weird for no reason. Like, sometimes I just need a reason behind the weird. Does that make sense? I don't know. After that, I read The Immortalists by Chloe Benjamin. I still don't think this is the book I thought it was. I've been trying. I think the book I'm looking for is The Alchemist. So on my hunt to read The Alchemist, I've read The Magicians. Well, I DNF'd it after like a chapter. And now I've read this. I don't know why I think these are all the same book, but now I know what book I'm looking for. So yeah. Anyway, I read The Immortalists. I have been interested in it before. I just didn't really know what it was about, but it intrigued me. So this one is fairly popular. It's about a family of 4 kids, and in the very beginning of the story, they're young and they go to this psychic seer person, and she tells them when they're all going to die, like the exact date. And it goes on to follow each child and how it influences their life or doesn't influence it but still influences it, and all that good stuff. I really like this. There's a big like magician plot line in here. One of the kids goes on to be a magician, illusionist, and she's great. I love her, and I really love books with that kind of plot, so I really liked this one, and I really like a good family storyline and kind of like what would you do if you knew the day you were gonna die kind of situation. So yeah, I think this one's a classic story that lots of people know of or can get the gist of the plot, but I really liked it. I did give it 4 stars, so yeah, I had a good time with it, and I don't really know what else to say about it. It was good. I liked it. Next, I read another really great book, and I think this one's pretty new, but that is Bright Young Women by Jessica Knoll. And this, I had no idea what this was about really going into it. I read the synopsis. I knew it was kind of like a good for her-ish story, and I knew like the basic plot of this girl is in a sorority, and one night she's like the only witness of this guy who breaks in and kills her best friend, another girl, and then mutilates 2 others. And it kind of follows her story trying to get justice. So I really liked this one. Did not know that it's based on Ted Bundy at all. I got to the end and I was like, is this? Because they made a reference to like Zac Efron in a Netflix movie, and I was like, is this about Ted Bundy? It is. I'm not big on like serial killer true crime-ish. I'm not really big on serial killers in general, so I don't really know a lot about Ted Bundy, shockingly. So I didn't know that this was kind of inspired by the story of one of the girls who survived his murder spree. I can't really give you much information on her or that story. I know that this is a new interpretation of that and kind of based on that story, but I guess if you're into true crime, you would probably know and all that stuff. So I feel like I probably don't need to tell you. It is based on that though, so just so you know if you do read it. I did really like it. I did like the justice, well, I didn't like the justice system in the book, but I liked the justice that was had and the overall message. I think it was really good to hear, good to put out there. So yeah, I'm glad this is becoming more and more popular, and I really liked it. Next up, we have another Alice Hoffman book, and that is The Invisible Hour. This is her newest book that she has put out, and I loved it. This is based on, it's not like based really on anything. We'll kind of get into it, but this follows 2 timelines. One is a girl who is born into this cult and eventually escapes it, and her fascination with Nathaniel Hawthorne, specifically The Scarlet Letter by Nathaniel Hawthorne. And then we follow Nathaniel Hawthorne as like a young adult, and there's a little bit of like, I don't want to say like time travel, but like timeline jumping, and she goes into his world and falls in love with him, and he falls in love with her, and she kind of helps inspire the Scarlet Letter. It's like a whole like wibbly wobbly timey wimey, you know, like it's like a yarn ball of a timeline. But I loved it, and it does make sense like in the book. I gave this 5 stars. Fantastic book. It doesn't get convoluted really at all, maybe a tiny bit, but I think Alice Hoffman really did it well with how convoluted it could have gotten. So I think props to her. I really liked this. I just love her stories that follow, her stories mostly follow independent women in a time or place where independence is not allowed or is frowned upon. I really like that. I think is it like basic feminism? Yes, but also I eat it up every single time. So, and for the next book, I got a little bit out of my comfort zone, but then quickly found out that it was not out of my comfort zone really at all. So that is The Foxglove King by Hannah Whitten. I picked this one up because I really liked For the Wolf and For the Throne, and I liked that storyline, and I liked the romance, so I'm like, you know what, let me try this one. I think this is like big on Book Talk, I don't know, but it's like talked about as like a romantasy, I think they're calling them, and it's like obviously like a fantasy that is a romance, like a romance that takes place in a fantasy world. This was not that. Like, I'm not mad because I didn't know it was a romantasy going into it. I like a little bit more fantasy than romance, so that's what this was. listen, I don't want to be that person, but there was no fucking in this book. I picked this up thinking there would be. I don't normally gravitate towards that kind of thing, but I was like, okay, I can get down with that for this, and there was none. Yeah, like the one time I pick up a book and I'm like, okay, I'm down for them getting down, and they don't get down. But I really love this book. I think I gave this 5 stars, 4.5 or 5. This was really fun, and I really liked the romance and the twist and all of that, but I was just like, this is not a romantic, this is a fantasy book with some romance in it. Am I crazy? I don't know. Is it me or is it Book Talk that's crazy? I don't know. But anyway, I really liked this, and I'm gonna keep reading this series, and I don't know, I just really liked it. So if you don't know what this is about, it's about a girl living in this world where the magic system is really cool. It's like they use poisonous plants as drugs, and there's like a whole magic system, and our main character can bring back the dead, like resurrect the dead, and there's so much. It's so hard to explain a fantasy book like this because it's like there's so much going on. But there's a whole mystery. She's like a drug runner, and then she gets caught, and then they find out she can resurrect people, so then she goes to work for the for royalty, and there's a whole thing. It's really good though. I just don't know how to explain it. It's really good, but yeah, highly recommend. I loved it. There's just no fucking in it. Maybe the second book, fingers crossed, because I was kind of hoping, but that's okay, I'll get over it. But yeah, really liked this one, gave it 5 stars. And am I crazy or is Book Talk crazy? Let me know in the comments. The next book that I'm going to talk about is an ARC, and that is The Spell Shop by, who is this by? Sarah Beth Durst. So this I was so excited for. I gotta say, I dropped everything to read this book. The synopsis basically is this girl is a librarian, and the library, she works in like the Capitol, and it's like this whole fantasy world. Anyway, the library that she works in gets burned down by the rebel group that is like against the people in power there. I can't think of the word I'm thinking of. So she goes back to where her parents came from, which is a little island, and she like starts this jam shop that is also a spell shop, but magic isn't allowed, and it's like all this different stuff. It's very quirky, fun, kind of gives Legends and Lattes vibes, but with a little bit higher stakes, and it was a lot of fun, but I docked a star because it felt like a little Disney movie-ish. It felt like a middle grade book with higher stakes. I don't know if that makes sense. But it just felt a little too quirky. I liked the romance. There was a little bit of romance in it. I liked the romance. I liked she has a talking plant as a best friend, and a little cactus that just says Meep, and their name is Meep, and it was fun, but like it was just a little too trying too hard almost. So if you liked Legends and Lattes, I would recommend this one. It just wasn't like for me, I don't think, but it was fun, and I liked the world, and yeah, I don't know, it just felt a little Disney movie-ish, which if you like Disney movies is perfect, but I don't really, so yeah. Next, we have Next by Michael Crichton. That worked out perfectly. This I've had sitting right there on my shelf for years. and I just never got around to it. I picked this up at like an estate sale, and it was $2. So I was like, sure, Michael Crichton, haven't read this one. I will pick it up. This was like right after I read Jurassic Park, and I really loved it. And then I never picked this up. So I decided that I'm gonna go through and read all the old books that have been sitting on my shelf for years that I've never read yet. And this one was first. And I surprisingly really liked it. I gave this 4.5 stars, I believe, and maybe 4. I can't remember. I think 4. We're deciding now, it's 4 stars. So this follows a world, kind of a futuristic-y world, where we are able to manipulate genes and do some wacky things with it. So the back just says, welcome to our genetic world, fast, furious, and out of control. This is not the world of the future, it's the world right now. And this was really, really good. I don't know much about genes or DNA or anything like that, so don't take my word that anything in this was accurate, but listen, if you can make it make sense to me, I will believe it. So yeah. But I really liked this. There were a lot of different plot lines that eventually all converged kind of into one. And that kind of is why it's not a full 5 stars, because sometimes I was like, did this need to be in here? Like, it felt like it needed a bit more editing down, if that makes sense. But I think overall, the message was really good. There is like an author's note in the back of basically like, in case you missed it, here's what I'm trying to say. And he has like a list. 1, stop patenting genes. There's a lot of talk in this book about gene patents and stuff like that, and how it can go awry really quickly. Establish clear guidelines for the use of human tissues. Again, that's something that's talked a lot about in the book. So he talks about it at the very end in the author's note, the point he's trying to get across here. And I think he does get it across, but again, I think it just needed a bit more editing down. That's just my opinion. But yeah, overall, this was really good. Not quite as good as Jurassic Park still, but it does kind of follow the same, you know, morality of this stuff, kind of. The morality of science, basically. It is what this follows, as well as Jurassic Park. So, I really liked it, but also I don't know a lot about genes, so maybe if he's like wrong about everything, then you might not like it. I don't know. I liked it though, so 4 stars, yeah. And I'm glad I finally read this. And speaking of legends and lattes, the final book that I read this month was Bookshops and Bone Dust, which is the prequel/sequel to Legends and Lattes. And this follows Viv, who is one of the main characters in Legends and Lattes. And this is her backstory. This is where she comes from, her OG adventure. So basically in this book we get her, she gets injured doing her mercenary stuff, and she ends up in this small town to recover, and she makes friends with this bookstore owner and this bakery owner and all this different stuff. It's like Legends and Lattes. It does have a bit higher stakes than that. So the mercenary company that she was working for was going after this necromancer, and towards the end of the, towards the middle, like the whole plot basically, the climax is this necromancer is doing bad things and they have to stop her. So there's higher stakes than with Legends and Lattes, where I think like the highest stakes was like making a coffee shop. But I did like it. I gave this one 4.5 stars. I did just dock half a star because it was higher stakes, and because of Legends and Lattes, I was going into this expecting like a low-key, cozy, almost like fantasy contemporary, you know, like Legends and Lattes. But it did have higher stakes, which I wasn't prepared for, and wasn't like, my brain wasn't ready for it. So it was just a little harder to follow. So yeah, just know going into it that there are some stakes. There is like an actual plot line in this book. And I'm not saying that no plot line is bad. Or no plot line or plot line, both are good or bad or whatever. They're neutral. This one just has a plot line, so just know that going into it. But overall, it was really good. I did give it 4.5 stars. It was cute, it was cozy, it was fun, and I wish there were more books in this series. I don't know if we're gonna get more, but I hope there are. And that is going to do it for today's video. I hope you guys enjoyed. Let me know what you read this month, if you read any of the same books or whatever. Feel free to recommend me something, I don't know. Or just say hi if you want, whatever. But yeah, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one.